Hello. Hey, Elliot.
Elliot.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
This is our first episode of What's the Tea with ACP. And I'm Michael Lewis. I'm the artistic director of Aural Compass Projects. My pronouns are he, him. And I'm so happy to get this started. Yeah.
I'm Cody Ray Cahoe. She, he, they. I've performed with Aural Compass Projects and have had the great honor of collaborating with Michael, Elliot, and our first guest this week. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for joining us.
And hey, I'm Elliot Page. My pronouns are he, him, his. Same thing, I've collaborated with ACP for a while now. And I am an opera singer, tenor, out of Virginia. So that's a little bit about me.
Shall we?
Yeah.
We should bring in our, oh, let me just say, you're here for What's the Tea with ACP? Bink!
I love it.
Before we get started, everyone, please consider visiting the Transnormativity link tree found in the comments below. It's definitely on the YouTube comments, and if it's not on the Facebook comments, it will be soon. For our first guest, our first guest sent me this Facebook group request just a couple of weeks ago for this group called The Writer's Room. I hadn't talked to this person in actually 11 years. So I said, well, this is very random, but I still have a deep love for this person and appreciate our time together at Columbus State University, where I did my first year of college before transferring. So after accepting the request to this group, I got another request to join this Zoom meeting within the group where we would read the screenplay of another person from Columbus State University that I knew, this amazing singer-performer that I didn't even know that she wrote. So she sent me her screenplay. I showed up at this Zoom meeting that lasted a few hours, and we all read through this amazing screenplay full of like laughs and cries, and it was so amazing to see 16 people showed up into this Zoom call to read these parts and to allow the writer of this screenplay to hear their work and to see it more fully than, they've been writing it in the quiet of their homes with no other collaboration for however long. And it was just really amazing. And I've been going for the past couple of weeks to these screenplay readings. It's so much fun. So please welcome our first guest, Dureyea Rashad.
Hey!
Howdy, how are you? It was great hearing that story. It's really fun. They said it was random after 11 years. It was 11 years.
11 years.
I know.
I know you.
For having me, I'm really excited to be here. I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited.
We're all nervous. This is our first live.
I know, right? It makes it easier though, because we're all like in new territory.
So Dureyea, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new company, Woe Nelly Media?
Woe Nelly Media started about 11 years ago. I decided, because I'm a super geek. I love anything like sci-fi, supernatural, comic related, and I'm an actor. So I was graduating, and I said to myself, like, I really want to do a certain type of work in a certain type of genre. They don't normally cast Black people in supernatural movies or TV. Like Black Panther just happened. I thought of this 11 years ago. So, if you look at certain shows, you have like one Black person in that show. And it was a genre that definitely evaded our, not even just our race, but also my community as an LGBTQ. So things have changed a little bit since then, but it's still kind of not the way I would think it would be. But anyway, I wrote this screenplay and I thought I was going to write it. It was going to be the most amazing thing that the world has ever seen. I was about to get picked up by ABC. They were going to be fighting over me. That's how it was going to play out in my head, you know, but that's not how it went down. Okay, let me tell you. So in the end, I started passing my script out to people and they were like, oh, you have something great here, but no, you still got to work this and that. So I kept retyping it and retyping it and retyping it. And I would send it to people, get it read. And I wanted to make sure I could protect my the work. So that's where Woe Nelly Media came from. It was literally just the name of something that I could attach to this script so I wouldn't lose it. Over the years, I've written like so many things. I literally hand wrote my last 3 scripts. It was kind of like the difference between Photoshop and hand drawing to me. It was so much more intimate, you know? And after a while, I was like, you know what? Instead of sitting on all these impulses and saying, well, I'm just an actor who wrote this script, I was like, clearly there's something there. And I just went with it. Recently, I got into a situation where I just had a wake-up call. And I think it was also in dealing with Corona. It's like, let it fail. That's the worst that's going to happen. If you do Woe Nelly Media full out and you don't, and it doesn't win, like it fails, but it doesn't mean anything about me and anything about the people who are supporting me. It just means that I went for something I was passionate about. So I got down and I was just like, I started watching so much content, doing so much research, reading books, watching movies, typing. I was so blessed to be around certain people. There's this one woman, her name is Megan Noel Calgill. I owe so much to her because she is a playwright. And when I was trying to make my writing better, she and I co-wrote one version of the script. And her dialogue, her writing, the nuances, bro, like when I tell you I came up off of her skills and helping me, the writer that I am today, 120,000% is due to her and the time we spent together just having fun rewriting that script. So yeah, that's pretty much how Woe Nelly came about. I decided to just fully go for it, make this a company that was based on all the things that I want to see happen in the world. I want to see happen in the entertainment industry, giving chances for people like me, people who are LGBTQ, to be in these roles that don't, like, you don't have to be LGBTQ to be in this role, but it's just naturally there because everyone doesn't walk around screaming their sexuality every second. You know, it's people. It's true. We're just people. So usually when you see a gay character or a lesbian character or a Black character, that is such a big part of their story that it's like that's the only reason they're there. So I just wanted to see these characters just being in these spaces.
I love that.
I'll be the first to testify that the last 2 screenplays that we read in the writer's room featured highly queer people in a very normalized sort of atmosphere that wasn't trying to like push this super gay or whatever sort of experience. It's just these people who have feelings
Right.
and are also sharing an interesting story. I love it.
Sorry, y'all know I talk a lot now, so don't let me take over.
I know, we need your help.
Okay. Because I'll just sit here let me get the microphone. I just go in for an hour and a half, all right? But I love that because there's this thing that's happening, and I'm definitely, I like to think I'm a realist, but you know, some people would characterize me as an optimist. I think realism is like understanding that there's negativity out there. Of course, you're gonna encounter it, but understanding that just because there's negativity doesn't mean there's not the exact opposite. But I feel like, you know, it's a choice. A dog wants to be in the interview. Hey, turn sit down. Oh, you wait till now. Anyway, it's one of those things where I forgot what I was saying. Can you remind me?
You were saying what kind of drew you to being able to create characters that aren't specifically about what their traits are.
Well, I mean, I can repeat what I said, but essentially that's what it is. I want to see characters that are deep and have depth to them. It was interesting reading the last 2 plays. Side note, there's this group that's connected to Woe Nelly Media called the Writer's Room, and there's another group called the Art Box. These 2 groups are part of online communities that I don't want to say it's a service that we provide. It's more a space where artists can go and get feedback and communicate with another, because writing, as Cody said, is such a solitary journey. Until you get it done, you don't really have any eyes on it. You're really nervous about letting people read it. And so these two communities exist. And within that community, we have what's called Wine and Reads. I was trying to play off of Wine and Cheese. And, right, you know what I'm saying? But it's really dope. We get together every weekend. Everybody has their little beverage, little cocktail. You can drink some water, you know, and we read someone's work if they're feeling comfortable sharing it. After we read their work, we then have a talk back. It started on accident. It started because I wanted one of my scripts read, and a friend of mine was like, "I don't want to read your script. I hate reading scripts. Can we just do a live YouTube, chat?" He's like, "I just don't want to do homework. I'm a whole grown man." So we did that, and then after that, we basically had such a good time. The talk back was so deep, because the piece that I wrote was like, there was a lot of women characters in there. A lot of females were telling me, "Hey, bro, this does not come off the way you want it to come off," and had to be ready for that critique. And I wasn't, but I took it. And one of the guests there, she says to me later, she's like, "Hey, do you think we could do that again next week with me?" And I was like, "I don't see why not." And then once the third person asked to do it, I was like, this is something that people really want to do. They want to be in the space because it's such a positive space. So even if you don't support Woe Nelly Media, definitely support the Writers Room on Facebook, because if you're a writer or you know someone who's a writer, or if you just like listening and giving feedback, that's a perfect group for you to be a part of to help the development of other artists.
I love that. Wow. Very cool.
Well, I mean, I'm going into the room as an opera singer. So, like, I write poetry in my spare time, but I wouldn't, like, say I'm an educated poet. But, like, going into that space, there are so many people in there who are, like, they know the screenwriting lingo. They know, like the people working the cameras are not interested in all of this like extra information that's in the script. So it's just like I'm seeing more of the process that is involved with screenwriting and things that will written for television, which is just so different than like I'm used to going out and singing my little heart out to a room full of people, and that format kind of already exists. But screenwriting format is like this thing that is changing and developing.
I remember being so pleasantly surprised when I started writing scripts. So I'm an actor and I started from stage. So I started doing that when I was 12. So in plays and playwriting, there's so many liberties. I feel like there's so many liberties. There's certain plays out there, like Tennessee Williams is going to write a page and a half of stage directions, just describing the set. You know what I'm saying? There's certain plays out there that literally only have the dialogue and exit and enter. You know what I'm saying? So because it's a different medium. With a play, you're going to get that play reproduced 1,000 times at this theater, that theater, this. With a film script, you're producing it one time. You're producing that version of it. So there's choices that you have to make. It's literal screenwriting. People give film this kind of bad rap when it comes to being artistic, how it's not about art, it's about business. Let me tell you something. Those are artists. Those people who sit down and write those scripts, because you have to be technical with it so that the technical people doing the lighting and the sound can get what they need to get done and know what's needed and what's not, but still that the director can get inspired by your words so that the actor can know how to delve into that character. And the balance of that being entertaining, artistically woven, and technically correct, that is a very, very fine line, which is why I understand why they give people, like, while some people can win the Oscar for the screenplay, but not for the whole movie, it's they're taking into consideration just the script, how masterful that person was in weaving that story together, keeping it in content, keeping an awareness to all of those things. So when I first started reading scripts, I was so impressed. I had no idea that this was what it encompassed. So it was just one of those amazing things. So when you have a situation like the writers' room, we're very blessed to have certain people come in and share their expertise, you know, because these are people who don't have to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're putting out the people who are new to this art form because they want to see them succeed, which is something that I feel like people overlook. They don't realize that people don't want to see you fail.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see you win.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, I know that, you know, you're just starting this company, kind of getting it off the ground. What type of like services does the company offer as I guess kind of like a production company?
Mm-hmm.
Or can you talk a little bit more about just Woe Nelly in general?
Woe Nelly is it's one of those things that's a super objective and a current objective. My super objective is to be, you know, basically a repertoire theater for film.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of actors who sing, who write, and direct. So I would like to have a film company where we're developing works together as a group. Okay, this year we're going to start this pilot. We're going to do these movies, get those off the ground, but we're interchanging those roles. Oh, and you can act in this one and I'll direct. And then you produce this one. And so that we're just a big melting pot of art and collaboration. Of course, we'd hire outside, but it'd be like a core group of a repertoire theater. So the services that we provide right now, we do, well, first we do screenwriting and conceptualization, where it's basically, if someone has an idea, they don't know how to flesh it out, whether it's for marketing their company or whether it's for, I'm an actor and I want to make myself more marketable. Can you help me with my reel? Can you create a web series for me? We do all of those things. We'll sit down with the client and we'll discuss with them what they want to get out of this project, and we'll craft something specifically for them that serves their needs and that makes them happy. And then, you know, from there, we can either, that can be part of it, or we can then move into production and seeing it through all the way through editing. We partner with, we're partnering currently with Cody Paul Media, which is, I believe it's codypaulmedia.com. He's an excellent editor. He's a breath of fresh air to work with. Him and his wife are kind of tag teaming this. They are amazing people. Check out his wife's YouTube, Mompreneur plug on YouTube. And they're just amazing people.
Wait, can you say that again? Say it one more time.
Mompreneur plug on YouTube. Mompreneur. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, like an entrepreneur with a mom.
Yeah, her whole thing is
Got it. Mm-hmm.
is a boss. Okay, she got two little kids. Tamara, if you're watching, I ain't gonna say what I normally say about the kids because we don't say. Okay. But
this is cameras?
Yeah, Tamara, yeah.
Yes.
So she has two amazing boys, and they're so well behaved. So I would never tell her that to her because I like to give her a tough time. But they're so well behaved, so polite. She managed to do that while getting a master's degree and being married and being a good wife, and also supporting him in his business endeavors. So really check out that YouTube channel. But what was I? Look.
You're in your services.
Right, thank you. And so basically we work with them in tandem to like edit videos and get everything done to all the way through to the end process for our clients. We also do actor coaching, monologue prep. So if an actor comes in and says, you know what, I really want a monologue specifically catered to me and what types of roles that I want to get, think I can get, and are not getting. So essentially, we'll sit down with them, create an audition piece or pieces, and then in addition to that, we'll start to do actor coaching. The actor coaching is really one of my favorite things to do, to work with an actor individually. All actors need actor coaching. Your street has an acting coach, okay? So it's more like, you know, you don't decide, okay, I mastered the saxophone, I never have to pick it up again. No. So we do that. We also do screenwriting, and we do content creation. So if you're on YouTube, we'll do that for you. There's a longer list of our, we're also going to start doing live coachings at some point so that people can watch us do a coaching session, because sometimes people are afraid, they don't want to spend their money, they not know what they're getting, but also you don't have to spend your money. You can just really, you know, be a part of this community and see this artistic growth. But you would have to join the Art Box or the Writers Room to see those.
Interesting. can you tell us a little bit more about?
My bad.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all you, Elliot.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about your kind of role in content creation,
Mhm.
and can you give us like a little background about where the name Woe Nelly came from? Because it's a very unique name.
Okay. I love that. I love Woe Nelly. Woe Nelly, because I'm kind of like aloof anyway. But let's put that to the side. So Woe Nelly came from this concept that I have about balance. I'm super Zen, Buddhist, mindfulness. Those are kind of like my thought processes. And I feel like everything is necessary. Everything is, and so to me, the idea of Woe Nelly, because we don't spell it WHOA,
Right.
WOE, which is like woeful, woe is me, dreadful kind of thing. It's this play on comedy, the masks, drama, the sad one, and the laughing one. So woe would be the sad one, Nelly would be the laughing one. The idea that you're taking this old and this new, with the idea of Nelly being like a horse. I see a cowboy, right, in my head, but all of our imagery has to deal with outer space and technology and futurism. So Woe Nelly is a balance on those two ideals working in tandem with each other, because opposition is not necessarily a negation of the two. It's actually a complement of the two. So that's where Woe Nelly came from. What was the other Christian again?
Just like a little bit more about like what you do in forms of content creation.
So with content creation, it can be a number of things. Right now, we're a little limited because of COVID-19 and things like that. But say, for instance, you decide I want to do a YouTube channel, or I want to do a marketing. I want to market my product or this and the third. So if you were marketing your product on a YouTube channel, I'd be the one to type up what you wanted to. I'd sit with you while you're on the phone. We would type up a script for you, send you the script, you'd film it. After you film it, send it back. We would edit it, cut it, splice it to make it a nice little package for you to put online.
Wow.
Something like that. And so if you needed us to help get your channel off the ground, give you good suggestions. Hey, this works. This is dynamic. This is not dynamic. This is what you're going for. Hey, you might like this line or this scene, but it doesn't really serve the purpose that you said you wanted it to serve. Is that okay? And we're definitely not in charge of your content creation. You're in the driver's seat. The decision is yours. We will be there to give our opinion and to support, but we're not taking over your project. So that's what it is to be content creation. And then go a number of ways. That can even go just down to, hey, I want to do some flyers and I need somebody to design them nicely. I want to do some online imagery for my my podcast or my cooking show or whatever it is.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, is what, like, within content creation, what kind of services? So basically so things that are revolving around acting, screenwriting, playwriting, also like media things that are able to be put out, and promotion, kind of like promotional materials for channels as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
It's really a lot of things. And say, for instance, you come up with something that you have a great idea for something, you've never seen it and you want it fleshed out. We can do that with you. That's part of when I say conceptualization, it's like, I have this idea, but I don't know what to do with it. Okay, let's talk.
Right.
And we do, definitely you can go to www.woenellymedia.com and you can look at all the things that we have there. You can look at some of the projects that we're currently working on. You can look at links to our social media, links to our communities as well.
Awesome.
So any of you out there that need some content created,
I'm gonna hit you up.
All right now.
So some people are commenting. We have Laura Beth Ernst, Sarah Thomas, Megan Jones, Barbara Face, Michelle Pokapak, Maraway, Rhonda Hogan.
Rhonda, hey Rhonda.
So any of you out there, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we can forward them on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say to you all. I want to say to you all, to the Oral Compass Project, I really love that you're doing this series. It's very needed, and I really love that you're doing it. And I'm so honored to be here for your first guest, but I think you guys are amazing for thinking of this and seeing it through. For every artist that gets on here, we have to support each other,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank
That's
you for being
real.
our first guest. And,
True.
you know, I feel similarly to you. You were talking about, you know, I'm just going to start Woe Nelly and see what happens. And if it fails, it fails. I mean, that's, we're 1 year in now for our All Compass projects, but yeah, and it was a great year. But I don't know. I mean, I'm still learning every day when it comes to nonprofit. I didn't take any like schooling or I just, you know, studied it, did some research, and, you know, I'm figuring out on the way. And the amazing thing is that people are willing to like step up to bat and show their support in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I've not always been the best about like reaching out to people. A lot of times I feel like, oh, I have to do it all. But like if I were to tell myself something from a year ago, I'd be like, ask for help. People will help you. Just ask for help. But yeah. So I love that you're starting this, especially in a pandemic. Like what better time? Like just go for it. Yeah.
So we're currently doing this series, which is I do want to talk about this really quick. It's called Talk It Out. That is my baby. Oh man, when I tell you, like, it came from me talking to someone who they didn't know that I was LGBTQ, and when they found out, they were kind of like floored by it, you know. And they were like, "If I knew that when I met you, I never would have talked to you." And I'm like, and that's the problem, you know.
Wow.
We're not talking to each other. We're not talking to each other about. Hey, Democrats aren't talking to Republicans. They're just getting online, saying horrible things to each other because our leaders are always fighting. And we're taught that we have to fight if we think things are different. No, we don't have to fight. You can definitely like vanilla and I like chocolate, and we go to the store and get some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? You don't both have to like vanilla and some ice cream. Come on now. So I feel like Talk It Out was basically like my way of saying, like, bro, it's totally cool for us to disagree because we're going to grow from these conversations. It's a series. There's some previews up on it for it on YouTube right now, and there, if you go to Woe Nelly Media's channel, and there's some clips online on Facebook. But the idea of this concept was to show all these different people getting together, talking, being unified. And with that concept, it just teaches me, like, if I wasn't in this pandemic, or if we weren't in this pandemic, I think a lot of things would not have happened, such as the response that we're getting, not to get too political, with the George Floyd incident, also with the Tony McDade incident, also with the Breonna Taylor incident, and also, you know, someone was just killed in my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, because now granted, that was a weirder situation, but he still was killed, and he should not have been. He was not threatening anyone's life. People feel like, you know, you can justify this or that, but look, don't get me started. Either way, I think that this is a time for us to start looking at each other with appreciation. We're starting to look at each other and care for each other. So opening this business at this time is actually a perfect situation.
Well, also going from that and what you mentioned about kind of, to me, it seems like you're kind of trying to foster interesting relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I know we discussed previously was you kind of trying to educate children and the youth on different types of relationships. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I think we live in a time where children have, like, if I have some kids, they're not having cell phones. They're gonna be mad at Daddy. Nope, you better go sit down somewhere. Like this.
Come on, sit down.
I feel like this. I know what I do on cell phone. Oh, hell no, you can't have one.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like this. But today, they're going to have access to all that information. We're not going to, it's not like before where you could really protect your children from all these things. And I think it's important for people to just talk to kids. You know, I was raised in a house, I never got to believe in Santa. I use this as an example because to me, I think when children learn that Santa Claus is not real, they're not really sad that Santa Claus is not real. They realize their parents are liars. That's how they view it. Mommy and daddy lied to me. And that's why it's such a hard thing for kids. It's such a turning point for children. I never had that. I mean, yes, I grew up to realize that my parents weren't perfect, but I didn't have this feeling of like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We were always talked to. My mom always talks to children like they're adults. What I mean is not the content, the delivery. She will talk to a child like this. Why are you doing that? She would talk to a kid just like she talks to me. I mean, or anyone. And so I feel like with these things, with this time we're living in, we need to take hold of our children and show them, hey, honor the elderly because they have all the wisdom. Protect the people who are marginalized, or I don't want to use the word weak, but who need protecting because they'll be the ones who are special. You know what I'm saying? There's this thing where we feel like we don't have to take care of each other. And then when our children see that, they emulate that. They go to school and they call kids the F word or the N word, not really even knowing what that means. And so to me, that's what it is about it. And I think that a large part of that is through the arts. Now, the arts get so underappreciated because it's like, oh, you know, you're not going to make any money doing that as a career. So let them take arts in school. Half the people I know who took arts in school are not artists right now. Some of the most amazing dancers I know are not artists right now, but they're very well-adjusted adults. They work hard, they care. They were taught, and to be an artist, you have to be so disciplined because there's not so much reward. Right. So you have to be connected to it. You can't just want it, you have to love it. And to me, we need to keep telling these kids, we need to show these kids that you can be creative and professional. You can learn the skills that it's going to take to be a CEO and draw on that paper and paint. You can learn the skills it's going to take to be a kind person and have fun with what you do.
We've talked about this a little bit. I'm backtracking just a tiny bit, but having, like, when I was growing up, people only really talked about like homosexual relationships in this sort of sexual context, and like a heterosexual relationship is something that can be seen as something that is outside of this sexual sort of narrative. Like you can have what's the word, like a platonic sort of relationship with someone, but as soon as the only time homosexuality is talked about or same-sex attraction, it is as if you cannot address homosexuality without talking about the sex aspect. Even though, like, I'm hanging out with someone else who is a man or male, and like there is something in that relationship that may be sexual. It may not be sexual, but it is our special relationship, and that sort of like undefined love is not something that I was taught was really possible in a homosexual world.
I definitely speak on that. Like for me, I always tell people, because I've had some people who, when I met them, they like couldn't tell that I was, I was LGBTQ. And it's weird to me because when I did tell them, they felt like I lied, right? Like, oh, why didn't you tell me? I said, because we ain't planning on doing nothing nasty. So that's your business. To me, I feel like how I feel. I feel like the only reason someone owes you that information is if y'all planning on getting down to the get down. Okay, if that's not happening, that's none of your business. And people do feel entitled to know our business in that way. We don't tell them up front. They act like we did something. It's like, no, I mean, I'm not hiding from you. I just don't. That's not what we're friends, or we're coworkers, or we are. That's not our relationship. And that to me comes through this feeling that I get, and I don't want to preach too much about this, but that gay people are seen as sexual deviants, not people. We're seen as people who are crazy because we think we don't identify with the gender that we were assigned at birth. They think all these negative things, but and then I had someone tell me, gay people are kind of mean, and I was like, oh yeah, you might get shaded. You absolutely might get shaded.
Well,
We're not gonna, you might catch some shade. You might catch all the shade. You might catch every bit of a read. The library is always open, okay? But it stay open. Even during quarantine, the library is open, so don't get it twisted. I feel like these things are like, but we don't hurt like y'all hurt us. We don't go and do all these horrible things that they do to people in and around the world. But I really wanted more representations of that. Like, I don't know if I can I name a specific show in a positive way? Okay. How to Get Away with Murder. Let's talk about that. First of all, that show, I could talk about that show for another hour and a half. But I applaud her for taking a character like, I'm going to say her name, Viola Davis's character, Annalise Keating.
Please.
And she was so open with her fluidness. It wasn't about her. She had a husband and she was in love with her old best friend who was a female. It was all these things and they were just her. It wasn't what drove the story. You know what I'm saying? It was just her being her. And to be a Black woman in her age range or whatever that was, showing this freedom of, this is who I am. I'm just being who I am. And she was not always a positive person, but none of that negativity came from that aspect of her life. She wasn't villainized for that aspect of her life. There's things that are happening like that in the entertainment industry. And we need to not just put that on entertainment to do. We need to start teaching our kids that, hey, if she likes vanilla ice cream, you better let the girl like vanilla ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Love them regardless if it doesn't hurt you. And I think we're in that space as a world.
Right.
I really do.
Right.
Wow.
I totally agree with that and get with that, because I think that a lot of times for me, like growing up, I never really discussed necessarily my sexuality. But like when I was in high school, like I had a boyfriend my senior year in high school, but it wasn't like, oh, I have like, I didn't like come out to my parents or anything like that or my family. It was just kind of like, he was there. It was fine. It wasn't. And thank goodness I was so fortunate to have a support system like that, because not everyone in the LGBTQIA plus community has that. I mean, it really is truly, I'm thankful that I'm living in the time that I'm living in now, because we have so much more, like a lot of people are talking about openness, right? We have more of that. It can still be open more, but in a way, I think that it's just kind of the steps that have kind of led us to this point. And obviously social media and the internet and being able to, call someone in 2 seconds and talk with them has allowed that to happen. So for me, I've been thinking a lot about how entertainment and social media and the internet have influenced this openness and this dialogue and being able to talk about things that, maybe were taboo beforehand. So it's been interesting.
And I do attribute that to the younger generation, millennials and the younger generation. Because, people say millennials, and they're generally, or my assumption is when people say millennials, they're referring to actually Generation Z. So, because, Beyonce is a millennial.
Right.
She's like class number 2, I think, and millennial 80. So there's some millennials that are in the moment right now really influencing people to be positive change. And the reason I could talk about her too, I'm not going, anybody who know me watching, I mentioned her, but I'm going to touch on it, then I'm going to leave. I'm not going to stay on the Beyonce.
I live for her, so.
The thing about her is she taught all these children, like, hey, if you bust your butt and stop being entitled to things and just go for them, you can absolutely have it. And it's great to have a role model like that. And because we live in this openness, we've heard her discuss that. We've heard other artists discuss that. We've seen all these great stories of people falling flat and getting back up, because people are no longer afraid to talk about their failures. People are no longer afraid to talk about, because at one point, if you got divorced, you were like a pariah. Just for being divorced. We're just in a new space where I think people's immediate, what's the word I'm going to say, reaction is to go towards positivity, to go toward love. And, I was definitely in a great space, because for me, I didn't really come out in high school because I didn't really know what was going on with me.
Right.
I knew that I had been attracted to the same sex, but I didn't know I didn't realize that I was still attracted to women until much later on. And then because I immediately thought, oh, if I feel like this, I'm this, period. Because that's what the world said. we are putting these labels on other people, making them decide what they are to fit in our boxes. When the truth is, you don't need a box. A box is only needed when you feel like you want to define yourself. I have to define you so I can define what I am not, to first feel solidified in my existence. You don't need that.
But with more experience in life, you have something else to make a more informed decision about who you want to be right now.
Right.
You don't want to say something and then be held accountable to that thing for your entire life as if there's nothing else informing who you are.
We all grow and change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's very true. Very true. Well, I have a question.
Okay.
For you, Dureyea, and for you, Michael. Both of you have started companies, right? And now it's like, it's like you've had the baby. Now it's like, what do you do to make that baby grow and be nurtured? So I'm wondering, like, I kind of have an idea of what led you to start your companies, but can you let our viewers know what led you to start your company? I know, Dureyea, you touched on that at the beginning, but what led you to start it, and if you've had any kind of setbacks or pushes forward that have influenced your company's growth.
Yeah. Well.
Michael? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go. Starting Oral Compass Projects, the idea formed a few years ago when Cody and I were living in Arizona, and we would do like some concerts ourselves, and we would try to like theme them in a way that we were bringing to light some issue that we thought was not prevalent in performing. So there was this one concert that we did, Living Scars, the songs of trauma and healing, because we thought, like, especially in the classical world, there's not, it seemed taboo to talk about trauma and to have a conversation with the audience where, like, this is something that, like, needs to be addressed. And I mean, there are all these reasons why it's hard to address it. But I think putting that out there was like a first step to addressing it within a community. So then we looked at that and said, how can we turn something like this into something bigger? How do we go macro with this? And so the Oral Compass Project's mission is to represent those who are marginalized, just in a very basic way. So we look at what communities, what issues are not being represented, and we strive to represent them in the best way that we can. And we have our own work to do with representing people, communities, and issues in a positive way. I was talking with Elliot about this, and I was going to make a post, but I can just talk about it here. So this last season we did Lift Every Voice. That's the poster for it.
Yes.
It was a beautiful concert. Elliot was on it. Sang his heart out. Amazing. And Maraway was on it, and Taylor Alexis Groupon. And yeah, it was a concert of all Black composers. Beautiful music, most of which I had never heard. I had heard the spirituals that we did, but most of the original compositions by these composers that I wasn't familiar with, besides like one. And we did it in the month of February, which is Black History Month, and like that's an issue. That's the only time that we did music by Black composers, and that's not really the way we want to represent Black composers or ourselves. So like in the coming seasons, we're gonna make sure that we do better with that. I can make promises about like, oh, we'll have this many on this
but whatever. Like we just have to we just have to do it.
Right.
So that's, I mean, and that's what I want to do with this organization is always examine, are we representing in the best way that we can? And if it turns out we're not, then we can change. And I think that's kind of what a lot of this country is waking up to. Like a little late, but just a little. You know. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with the organization. Yeah, I'll let Dureyea talk.
Awesome.
Like I kind of touched on before, it was mostly just a lot of things. There were so many things. I'm a dreamer. Like I'll sit and daydream, and there's so many things I wish I saw. Like X-Men. I wish they would have portrayed Storm the way that she is in the comics.
I know.
And I was like, well, I had a friend of mine who I was talking about this movie that I wanted the adaptation of it to be more like the original originator. And she was like, why don't you just write it? It really came from that. Like all through my college career, I basically, whenever I wanted to see something, I would have to go write it. Or I'm not go write it, but sorry, go produce it on my own. So it's this idea that if you're an actor or artist out there looking for work, that's great. Keep looking for work. But don't be afraid to make your own. We live in a totally new environment where that is rewarded and sought out. People will look at you on Facebook, YouTube, Netflix, all this stuff. You have such a wide range of places to go. Hey, what's up? And you have so much love. So to me, it really came through. That's Cody Paul, everybody. So it really came through this idea of trying to expound upon what I had in my head and bring it to life. But also, I was afraid to start a business because, like you said, where do you go next? For me, now that I'm here, that's a great question. So the idea is that I want to collaborate with other artists. I want to collaborate with other people like Cody. He's an opera singer, right? I actually am coaching an opera singer right now. So, and I love that cross artistic. I make up a word. I love that cross art, where two different mediums come together and we support each other. And that's really why I decided to make it more than just the script that I wrote.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the questions we had from Maraway. Have you worked with opera singers?
Yeah, that's why that's what you think of it. I have worked with opera singers. The interesting thing about working with her is that there's a lot of differences in the requirements for being an opera singer and the requirements for being, well, not even the requirements, but the technique and the approaches are very different. Not that one is right and one is wrong. They're just different because they have different goals, you know? And so it's really interesting using the vocabulary that she is aware of. Because she's an opera singer, you're still in touch with the same bases. You know what I'm saying? You're still in touch with those same techniques. It's just, okay, now take this technique and tweak it like this for the stage, or tweak it like that for film. And it's been actually a really, really great experience. And so I definitely coach opera singers. I coach actors. I coach, if you're a technician or if you're just a regular person who decides they want to become an actor, all that.
That's awesome.
And just tomorrow, you'll be coaching me on, I'm going to give you some of my media. I've been taking these pretty crappy videos with my cell phone. I'm trying to make a music video and I don't know where to go next. So
okay, then we'll definitely talk about that. I mean, that's a great thing about it. We can decide how you need to look, what the vibe is going to be. And like I said, it's really about connecting to you as the client and how you want to connect to your audience and making sure, because that's one thing. I have a degree in directing, and that's one thing in directing that they always stress, connect with the audience. It's about the audience. It's not all about the audience, but understanding what your audience wants and how they're going to receive this. What are you delivering to them? Because it's not just a one-way thing when you're performing. I used to think that, like, the audience doesn't matter. It's about my art. They're just watching. My professor got me together real quick. She says, that's the last part of the process is sharing. You have to honor that part of the process, the share. Now, it doesn't mean you have to cater and beg and plead for them to laugh at every line and cry at every tear, but you need to share and give that its reverence.
Right. That's very true. Very true. Because like it's not just about the end result, it's about the process, right? And if we have people to help us in the process to figure out like what do we do here, what do we do there, it becomes so much easier. And it becomes something that you really enjoy to do instead of feeling like a kind of like labor of love. It becomes like a part of the journey of what it means to be a performer.
Mhm.
It's all that work that happens beforehand. So that's great.
Mhm.
With a community of people that are there to share what they're getting from you and how they feel you can communicate more clearly. Like the
Right.
community is so key to that.
Right.
I think I'm biting someone else's words right now, but the idea that as business owners, we should be more concerned with what we're putting out than how much we're getting it.
Mm.
We should be more concerned about this content is excellent for our audience. This is going to help these people grow. This is going to help this dialogue happen. And when we are, the result, it'll just be a byproduct.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue to our tea of the day, integrity.
Okay.
Hello!
Integrity.
Integrity.
Hey, now.
Ooh, integrity.
And you know, we've
I
touched
love
on
that.
this. You know,
Look.
yeah, go ahead.
You're ready. Hit
Oh,
us.
it's me? I'm on integrity? Okay, so can I like how you had me? So Cody's like, come up with the tea that we can talk about, and I was just like, I wanted to say honesty, but he's like, no, because that was the example he gave me. So I said, okay, integrity. I did that pivot. Right. To me, integrity is so important. In art, the best and most effective art, not even when I say effective, the most emotionally honest art is when it's based in truth, when it's based in integrity. Okay. Because I don't want to go to see a performer who's painting by the numbers and going through the emotions. Because, it's nice when a singer can hit every note. It's another thing when they can make you fall on the floor crying.
Right.
And it's not a skill, it's just an honesty. It's an and how that translates to my real life, because one thing I'm always passionate about is education for life, arts being education for life. When you start to foster relationships based on integrity, then you essentially grow. Your connections with them are more honest, more open. We keep talking about openness. And I think the most important type of integrity for you to have is not just your integrity through your art or through your interactions with other people, it's your integrity with yourself. A lot of people lie to themselves. I'm not a racist. I'm a great person. I'm an amazing singer. I'm not whatever it is. We lie to ourselves. And that's a disservice to ourselves. Accepting your truth, there's so much power in that. People think it makes them weak. But no, there's so much power in saying, this is what I can do. This is what I cannot do. This is my half of that argument. This is not my half of that argument. When you know where you fall in that place, you can actually affect it. If you get in an argument with somebody, right? And you're so concerned with that person and what they said, oh, well, she did this to me and he did that to me, then you're not focusing on what you did. You can't change what that person did. You can keep yelling at them, but you can't change what they did. What you can do is fix what's in yourself to fix. And that goes through integrity.
Right. I wanted to read the definition of integrity, because when we were talking about it being the word of this week's discussion, I was kind of like, all right, what does that mean to me? Like, I've never really thought about the word integrity, right? And one of the things I thought offhand was something dealing with like how you feel morally or how you feel related to a subject. So Merriam-Webster defines integrity as a noun, which is a firm adherence to a code of especially morally or artistic values. A second definition is an unimpaired condition or soundness. And the third definition is the quality or state of being complete or undivided. So it's about wholeness or completeness, soundness and incorruptibility. So that's like a very, very loaded word,
Is
right? Like that, you know, if you say I'm a person of integrity, that you have a lot of weight on your shoulders when you say that. And I think sometimes the word gets thrown around a little bit because, you know, it's hard to really, well, what is a moral code? How do you define your moral code? How do you define what soundness means or completeness? It's going to be different for everyone. So in you all's experience, have you had any kind of experience with like your own integrity being brought up, or having to realize like, oh, that wasn't the most, you know, sound thing to do? Because I have my own, but I'm gonna talk about mine in a second. But I'm gonna let y'all talk for a second.
Well, I think what I was just talking about, I mean, having this Lift Every Voice concert in February, I mean, that was like not a very I don't know, like for my integrity, I need to call myself out, and I need to, you know, examine this and do better, because Black people do not deserve to only be celebrated in February, like, and then just like bye bye for the rest of the year. It's Black people deserve to be celebrated always. So that was like part of my integrity, to look at that and yeah, do better.
I had this circumstance that happened around me and my colleagues and some of my fellow students, where we were hired for this gig. You know, none of us have gigs right now. We're in a COVID world. Performing in public with large groups of people is just not possible. And, you know, I'm happy that there is a stance being taken to ensure that people are remaining healthy right now. So I can respect it. I understand it. However, I was given the opportunity to do a gig where I would be recording these British songs with a string quartet.
Socially distanced.
So whatever, the guy sent us all the info, like sign your contract by this time. And one of our colleagues, who was also singing on the event, responded pretty quickly just that day, saying like, I've inquired with you as the head of this organization, your stance and the organization's stance with Black Lives Matter. There are many artistic organizations that are taking very firm stances in support of, not just with their voices, but also with their money and the resources that they have to aid action towards this movement. Because you can say Black Lives Matter and then actually not help it at all. But my colleague said, you have not answered my questions regarding your stance or the organization's stance. The taking the side of silence is aiding the oppressor in this situation. So your silence is complicit in the oppression of Black people here. And this is a topic that is everywhere. So like, I'm thinking about it multiple times a day right now with the protests and, you know, people just speaking up. And I got that contract, and guess who didn't think about any of that? I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, where does this company, it didn't even pop into my head that I should ask where this organization stands and what they're doing to help oppressed people, until my colleague took a stance. And so this was like a moment of integrating this information that I've been dealing with and trying to understand at a more deep level. And even in the midst of it, I was totally just like reacting in this very normal way that I would react. Oh, I have a job. Great. I want money and I want to perform. But there are other things that you can ask yourself before that happens. Like, does this represent me as an integrated person? And so yeah, that was me of my most recent integrated experience of realizing like I'm saying all of these things and saying that I support this movement and I support these people, but I'm not holding myself accountable to those standards.
Accountability will be
Uh,
a later one.
A later episode.
okay.
I relate so much to what you all said. I think I've had a lot of those moments. I think if you don't have one of those moments, integrity, where you're questioning your integrity or realizing it, then that's not a good sign. And it's not that you haven't had the moment where your integrity was at question. It was that you just didn't realize it. And that's why I think and that's, so I can think of a lot of situations where, that's come into play, but I do kind of want to speak specifically on this one, just because we just recently filmed an episode where we were discussing, ways to protest, the criticism that goes along with people's choice of protest, because everyone's not going to walk. Some people are going to give money. And, this idea that in order to be a part of this movement, you have to be visible. You have to be. And that to me is like, no, you don't. I don't really care that you get the credit. I really don't care that you get the credit. You know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the credit. It's not about the credit. It's not about people seeing you, like, the kente cloth thing and the feet washing things. Like, look, I know it's like, okay, that's cute, but that don't do nothing. It's a moment in time. It's a soundbite. It's a picture, and then and for us, it's actually, and I'm just speaking as a Black man, it's actually more hurtful, because it's like the fact that we're at this point and you still think that's what we want.
Right.
Of all we keep saying clearly what we want. Policy change was the word you said, Michael. Accountability. Mm-hmm. We want all of those things. We don't want this performative stuff. So for me personally, it came through honestly being able to create the kind of work I'm creating and stand by it. It's scary to talk about certain things, especially when the goal of our show is to find people who don't agree. It's scary to talk about stuff because then questions come up in the middle of it that I'd never asked myself. And then I have to answer. And you know what I'm saying? And in that moment, your answer is going to be what it is. Probably going to be your most honest response. And it's made me then, and Cody said something before, you don't want to say something to maybe held to it for the rest of your life, because we grow and change. And we need to allow people that freedom. But now it's like, oh, you said this 25 years ago, so that's who you are forever. And it's like, nobody's who they were 25 years ago. Nobody thinks what they were 25 years ago.
At least we hope.
We hope. Look, okay. But I mean, that's just where it is for me in integrity. Like, it's an ongoing process. It's a living, breathing thing to deal with your integrity. There's not an end to that road. That road continues, and you need to be in touch with it every day. How are you helping? How are you hurting? I think that's really hard for people to come to grips with. Yes, this hurts people. This hurts someone, especially when you have the good intentions. I know, it's really, there's a lot of people who, what's the word I want to say, who are benefited from a racial system, but they have racial intent, racist intent. So when you tell them, hey, what you did was just racist, their immediate response is to get defensive, not to listen and understand, well, why was that racist? And I think and that comes through your integrity. So if anybody out there is questioning that, or they think, because I get told by my female friends all the time that I asked a female friend of mine if she was about her sister and her weight during her pregnancy. And she thought I said, that's offensive. And I was like, I was trying to, and she was like, no, that's offensive, and read me for filth. Okay. Said boom and boom and boom. Boom, boom, boom. I'm still like, she said no. But she, in it, like, because I'm gay and I'm here Black, I feel like I can't be an oppressor. But that's not true. And I benefit from being a man. And so when she was telling me, I just tried to be receptive and hear what she was saying, because I don't know what it's like to be a woman.
Right.
And I know I struggle, but I don't know those struggles. So I can't tell her, oh, get over it. I can't tell her that kind of stuff. It's not cool.
Right. And we all, I mean, that is a part of like the privilege discussion too, is that, I think that every person has their own form of privilege, whether it be, whatever constructs were created within their community, or if it is something, as simple as, hey, I have more than 2 pairs of shoes that I can choose from to put on my feet today. There's literally millions of people who may not have that option. You know what I mean? And so it's when we're talking about all of these things now, it really does make you introspect and think, wow, well, what have I done, or what can I do to, look at my own sense of privilege and act in the future with integrity, right? Because for me, like I mentioned earlier, I never really thought about like what it means to be like a gay person or a queer person. And as I've grown more, and as trans rights have come to the forefront, I realized that some of the things that I might have thought in the past or said in the past were things that were inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know because, well, child, I didn't know. And for me, doing my own research and trying to support a community that is not a community that I'm a part of, that, we all say LGBTQIA community, but within that umbrella term, there are subcategories, right? And so for me, something that I try to do is highlight the subcategories within our umbrella term, and to put it out to say, like, this is wrong. This is not what you should be saying. Why don't you think about it this way? And like, I've done that with my own family, and because I had to correct myself, I've said things and I'm like, oh, okay, no, no, ma'am. And so sometimes you have to do that with your own family. It's been a lot of talk of like, well, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, right? Correcting the white people who are maybe benefiting from this privilege, correcting other members of their family and their community, because there's no Black person necessarily to correct them, right? Doing your own research, taking your own stance on the roles, and enlightening people. Oh, that's my mama. Hey, mom. So, enlightening people, and just doing it in a way that's not combative always, just putting new thoughts in their head, just putting it out there and saying, like, maybe you should try to think about this a different way, or maybe you should try to speak about this issue in a different way. Do a little bit of research before you try to speak on an issue, because like I said, I've been there. Hey, honey, in the past, you have to own up to it. And that's how you change.
Mm-hmm.
Once you own up to the mistakes that you've done, and you try to live an honest and true life, we talk about the moral codes, right, that are associated with integrity, then that's how we push forward. That's how we make change. And that's what I've been trying to do in my own integral
Okay, now.
in my own integral space. But yeah. And I'm talking, but I wanted to highlight a story based on integrity that I experienced in the operatic world. So I was at a company, and part of what we had to do as costumes was some of my fairer skin colleagues were asked to darken their skin, right? And it happens very often in opera world. Like it's a big issue. It happens often. So, that's actually within the operatic community. That's something that's being brought up a lot right now. Is saying this.
Oh, sorry. Go
ahead.
Opera on Instagram.
Yeah, at Opera is Racist. And also this kind of like the sister to that, at Broadway is Racist. A lot of things are coming to light that people just don't talk about. Like, Dureyea, you were surprised that is happening, but it happens so often. You would be, it's like very normalized to go into a space and they'd be like, oh, well, we're doing, the chorus from Aida. So just can you just like do one shade darker? I mean, we want you to look very natural. Just think of it as like a tan, like you just went to the beach.
But why would that help the story? Like I can't stand. I'm sorry.
Right.
Well, I can't stand stuff like that. I'm like,
Yes.
look, if it doesn't serve the story we're telling, it doesn't matter what I look like. Like unless this is about colorism, then my skin color shouldn't matter.
Exactly. And that's something that's being talked about a lot now. So in my experience, we had this company and I was younger. I was not as wise now as I am about certain issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it bothered me. And I didn't speak up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about it often that because I was the minority in that situation, being a young artist, being of color, being even body size, being overweight is still looked upon as something that is a negative aspect of performing, right? And so I already felt like I had all these little things that could damage me or put me out of the running for roles or opportunities. And looking back now, I think that if I would have said something, there were other people who would have stood up with me and we would have changed that. I did eventually kind of low key put it through the channels and we were able to lighten the skin tones by about, 1.5 shades. But the girls still looked like they were sitting on the beach. Okay. So, that's one of the things that now looking back, I'm like, wow, I let my own moral compass be swayed by trying to have more opportunities for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a hard thing to come to terms with. And I think that a lot of people now are coming to terms with, damn, excuse my French, I could have said something, I could have done something, I should have said something, I should have done something, and I didn't. And I love, it's actually something I love. I love that people are starting to get light bulbs. Boop, 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 boop. And it's so important. It's important on my behalf. I'm considered a minority in some aspects, but in other places, like you said, Dureyea, I could be considered an oppressor or someone who has more opportunity than someone else. And if I don't look at other people and their circumstances and try to help them with their circumstances, then I'm doing the same thing that I don't want done to me. So I think integrity is just such an interesting word. I mean, it's like one of my favorite words now. After doing some thinking about it, it's like, wow, that's what we need more of. We need more integrity in the world.
It's crazy because I think of that about that all the time, like this idea of trying to educate people. I really struggle with that because when I tell you my family is very loving and super supportive. They're gonna talk SHIT about you, but they're gonna get you on it, but they do it to your face.
Okay.
To your face. But they're so loving and so supportive. So when they say or do things that are offensive, it's hard for me to really communicate that because they're like, no, we love you. We support you. But it's like, yeah, you don't even realize that by saying what you just said, that has all this weight to it because they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of puts me in this mindset of being like, when it comes to other people knowing and not knowing. That's why I take it as there's a lot of people in our community, I mean the Black community, who feel like it's not their job to educate white people. Because in 2020, they can do their own research. And those people are absolutely entitled to that opinion. My personal opinion, which has more to do with my connection to spirituality, is it's all of our responsibility to teach one another, especially when we're willing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people get more out of a conversation than they could off of reading an article online.
Right.
So I'm always ready for that. But it is hard sometimes to come to terms with that. Like every single person on this planet has oppressed somebody at some point. Period. I don't think anyone's avoided that. I think it's more like, okay, so since I've done it in the past, I'm probably capable of doing it now and in the future. So I need to be on the lookout for when I do that.
Exactly.
And I just think it's like you said, people are waking up to that fact, which is amazing.
Totally agree.
To give a more integrated sort of view on the United States and some of the issues that are brought up now. With less than 5% of the world's population, the United States holds roughly 21% of its prisoners, an estimated 6.8 million people. In 2014, African Americans constituted 34% of the total correctional population in the United States, despite being only 13.4% of the total US population. African Americans are incarcerated at more than 5 times the rate of whites. Thank you, NAACP, for your research and for sharing and making that public information. And to go along with this, trans, especially Black trans people, are especially at risk in this mass incarceration system.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a message from the Emergency Relief Fund, which I highly encourage you to check out, as well as our links in the link tree for what's it called?
That's right.
For Transnormativity link tree.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a message from Emergency Relief Fund. Trans people face dramatically elevated risk of harm or death in pre-trial detention. Because of the systemic discrimination and criminalization that pushes them to the margins of society, trans people are less eligible for pre-trial release under existing programs. And just a little side note from myself, this brings to question, innocent until proven guilty? Back to Emergency Relief Fund, they are more likely to be assaulted in jail and less likely to get out. Trans people experience constant injustice. Behind bars, it can be fatal. It's on us to make sure no one, not one person, falls through the cracks. We can, and we will. So please check out this link tree from @Transnormativity. They compiled this huge list where you can donate to bail funds in many, 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 many cities throughout the United States. They also share organizations like the Oprah Project, just lots of organizations for trans lives and Black lives in the United States. So please consider donating to them. And thank you for listening to maybe a little more integrated view of the United States today.
Mm-hmm.
Can I speak on that, or are we good on time?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I just want to share a little bit. I recently just got home from being locked up, and it's crazy everything that you say, because I have a college degree, I have all the things that were right, you know what I'm saying, and I ended up in that situation. I actually met two trans women while I was in. Of course, they were housed with us because they don't house trans women with the women, which is crazy to me.
Right.
I think I don't want to misquote this, but just last year, the first trans woman was actually put in a women's facility. I think that's how it goes. I'm not sure, but I know that they separate them.
Mm-hmm.
Either everybody, and I don't even know if they I know in some place it's that they just don't know what to do. It's like, okay, well, there's no policy in place for what to do. So they put them in SEG, which is horrible. It means you're like locked down for most of your day. You know what I'm saying? Different from everybody, just because you're trans. Or put them with the dudes, and then they have to literally be on edge every moment in time. Like when I tell you, the trans women I met in that place not only fed me, not only made sure I was good, they were super supportive. We had great conversations. We had they taught me, because they said I didn't like to read, because I don't like to read. I like to be nice and kind. They love to give you a good read, so they taught me how to read. They bought me up on my reading, but you know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where, had I not been through that experience, because usually me, even as a gay man, I would have avoided them in that situation because of the fear that I would have had to be associated with. You know, I want to make sure they know I'm not trans, I'm not like that. I'm not that kind.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they tell you when you're Black, oh, you're not black because you're talking. It's the same thing as in our community where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gay, but I'm not femme. Oh yeah, I'm gay, but I'm not trans. And it's like, no, we can't do that, because when I was in that situation, we were family. We had to be. You know what I'm saying? I could have totally went in there and played but I didn't. And so my point is just saying that, like, all the stuff he's saying about the statistics is really true. It's not even just along sexuality and transgender and identity. it's also about socioeconomic status. If I have money, I'm out. I can get charged with some crazy charges and be out on the street by 12 o'clock at night. If I don't have any money and I got picked up for freaking, I sat in jail with somebody for a week and a half for shoplifting. You know what I'm saying? No, don't tell them why they were shoplifting, because if they don't have the money to pay for that bond, they're probably shoplifting because they want to eat,
Right.
buy something or steal something to sell it to eat, but you don't have the money. So, and it's not innocent until proven guilty. Because look at this: if I sit in jail for 2 months waiting for my trial, and then they get to pre-trial and be like, "Oh, we don't have enough evidence to keep this guy," they let him go home. That 2 months that I just spent in the jail,
Gone.
I don't get no reparations. They don't even say sorry. It's like, you know, and I'm never going to criticize the entire system, because there's definitely some excellent police out there, some excellent district attorneys, there's some excellent judges, there are some excellent people in those positions who really care about making a choice that is going to help this young man or this young woman become better. I will never discredit an entire system, but I will, well, not an entire system, each individual attached to that system. But the way the system works, it definitely criminalizes certain groups, marginalizes certain groups, and because there's certain people who feel like, I heard someone say this really recently, Black people commit the most crimes in this country. And I was like, and then someone else was like, no, they don't commit the most crimes. They're just convicted of the most. Totally different statement. Why are they getting convicted of more crimes? Goes to everything that Cody just said and all of the other parts of it. So if you don't know, because before I had got in trouble, I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm sitting here talking to people. Why are you here? Oh, well, you know, I got an assault charge, and then they come in one day. I'm going home. They drop the charges. Anyway, my point is basically saying there are these things out there that we're not aware of, because we feel like if we stay in the dark about it, we can excuse not acting on it. But it's time to like find out, because if we can trust our justice system more, like to know that the people who are being put in jail need to be there, people who are being in those situations, it's a thing. Like, I know you're supposed to protect and serve me, not just, I shouldn't be afraid every time. I look at police cars like they're sharks. Like if you see a fin while you swimming, that's how every time I see a police car when I'm driving. And I feel that way, because there's plenty of police out there who I've encountered that definitely weren't that way.
Right. I totally agree, Dureyea, especially with your police statement, and feeling like every time, you know, I've had moments where I literally have gone, you know, I'm driving down the street, everything's fine, and I look in my rearview mirror and I see that there's a police officer behind me. So I'm like, okay, all right, let me make sure I'm maintaining my speed, make sure my hands are on the wheel, you know, I'm focused on the road. And, you know, we'll go 4 blocks and they're still behind me. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I had this specific experience. I'm going 4 blocks. I go down. I'm like, okay, he's still following behind my specific car. I turn. The officer turns behind me. I keep going. I turn again an opposite way. Still goes behind me. To the point where I went and I pulled into a driveway because I was so nervous that this police officer would come up with a reason to stop me, and then during that stop something tragic would have happened. And you know, one thing that I think is helping is us telling our stories, because probably most people wouldn't necessarily know that about me or know that that's a part of my daily thought process. And a lot of people don't have those thoughts, you know, but I've not been in trouble with any law enforcement officers before. I haven't, you know, had any reason to feel like I'm being targeted, except for the color of my skin. And for people to not realize that that's a daily thought process for people of color is, to me, something that needs to be brought forward. You shouldn't feel like the people who are supposed to be protecting you are also the people who are trying to damn you, you know? And And lately I've been sharing my own personal stories because, and I'm happy that you shared your story too. Thank you for that. Because we need that. We need people to see that it's not just quote unquote the people from the hood or people who are poor or people who are uneducated. It's all of us. We are afraid. We're afraid because of what has happened, what we've seen happen in the past. And the things that are happening right now that are being broadcast on the news are things that we knew about since we were children. We, as people of color, Black people, we've known about these issues. We've known that these things are taking place. And how do you stand up against a system or against people who don't even realize that it's happening? They don't even think on a daily basis that this is something that they have to be involved in. And thank God it's 2020 and people are starting to wake up. Thank goodness. And thank you for sharing, because that really means a lot. And that's brave of you to do. I think that, I mean, maybe that's a dumb way to say it, but it's brave of you to do, because instantly, you know, someone could judge you for whatever it is, for whatever reason you were there. You know what I mean? That's a brave thing to do. That's a statement to stand up for yourself and to say, yes, this happened, and yes, this happened, and and so I don't know. That's just my take on it, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
I appreciate your appreciation. Okay.
And that's the take.
Okay.
Integrity. I mean, that is part of your experience, and that's part of it's integrated into your experience. So
yeah.
I love that you recognize it and you're unafraid of sharing. Yeah.
Right.
All right, you guys.
Yeah.
Everyone watching, visit Woe Nelly Media.
WOE.
Get some
WOE.
WOENELLY. Woe Nelly.
Yeah. Can I say one thing?
What's up?
You're looking up Woe Nelly. Make sure you connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Connect with us.
Yes, because y'all have some fire content about the y'all got some fire stuff coming out.
Oh yeah, we definitely have a lot of really great content that's about to hit. Like this next week's gonna be a lot of fun. So Talk It Out premieres next week. So I think it'll be tomorrow. Our first episode's gonna go online. We're gonna be doing one a day, something like that. So.
I love it. Well, I'll be tuning in.
All right now.
I'll be there.
That's amazing. So for all of you that stuck with us until the very end, we have a little treat for you. One of our future guests on this show, Lachelle Allen, shared with us a little song, and we want to share it with you now. So
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. See you next Sunday.
See you next Sunday.
My name is Sister Lala. I got to share the song with you. Journey to Freedom. I learned about the quest for freedom sitting at my grandmama's knee. In her voice I heard the rise and fall of life. In her eyes I seen a dream for me. Life was hard in the South under Jim Crow. Migrated north, some of the problems were the same. When freedom was up the national books, things would never be the same again. I found myself back down to the place of my birth. It was hotter than the center of earth. Boycotts, rallies, and sit-ins, organizing the people marching. People looking for an equal footing. Tell me why I gotta fight to fit in. Why I gotta fight for freedom in a country that cries liberty, where my fathers have died paying in blood, sweat, and tears? Why I gotta fight to be free? Why I gotta fight for freedom in a land that took so much from me? Generations have died paying in blood, sweat, and tears. Why I gotta fight to be free? Just like the exodus of Egypt, Selma to Montgomery cried out, even more than the march on Washington. Bloody Sunday would scream and shout. And just like the Hebrew children, they came to a great impasse. The sea did split so the whole world could see. Violence acted out on people marching peacefully. Oh, I said the sea did split so the whole world could see. Violence acted out on people marching peacefully. Oh, why I gotta fight for freedom in a country that cries liberty, where my fathers have died paying in blood, sweat, and tears? Why I gotta fight to be free? Why I gotta fight for freedom in a land that took so much from me? Generations have died paying in blood, sweat, and tears. Tell me why I gotta fight